Now, joining me this morning is Ambassador Rebecca Amoge Otengo, and she's speaking to us from Gulu. We will interact with her very shortly. I talked to her, and of course, hear her message, and of course, get into issues as we also get ready for the elections tomorrow. Now, lots of things are continuing to happen, and our teams are across the country where they will be tomorrow. We just want to remind you that UBC TV will do its best to ensure that we keep with you starting today until Saturday, when the announcements will be officially made by Justice Biarakama Mujenyi, the returning officer or the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Now, this is going to happen at Chambogo, where the Tele Center, the National Tele Center, will be, as opposed to Nambole, where traditionally we have been having and holding these different elections, and of course anything that comes out of this election. So, joining us on Good Morning Uganda Extra this morning is the Honorable Rebecca Amoge Otengo, and I think she's ready with us to speak to us, and of course getting in there. I just hope that she can actually see me and get to us because we need to set this conversation rolling. My IT team, please help me. I saw her a while ago, and I just want to know whether she can actually hear me. Honorable Mama Rebecca Amoge Otengo, if you can see me and if you can hear me, please say hello to us and good morning to Ugandans. Then we'll know that you can actually get us.
Good morning, Mr. Jagenda. Good morning, Ugandans. I'm listening to you very clearly, and I pray that the network will be good so that we are able to interact. I'm speaking from Northern Uganda. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm happy that you can actually hear us ably well. The audio is clear, it's good, and that you can. I also pray that you have stable internet and the connection all through and through for the next 1 hour. We'll talk about quite a number of things, and very importantly, peace and security in this country, which everybody is talking about currently. Let's start with peace and security, especially in the region where you are, and what the people are thinking ahead of tomorrow's general election.
I would say that your embassy in Addis Ababa as the head in Ethiopia and non-resident ambassador, but Union as the permanent representative. And on that, I can only say that in 2019-2020, we had over 25 elections in Africa. So the election of Uganda is not unique. We've gone through it severally, and I just want to call upon Ugandans to be very calm and elect their leaders. I would like to tell you what Uganda is doing at the region. I think we've played a very big role in the area of peace and security. We've helped our fellow brothers and sisters in the region to make sure that their countries are also pacified and they become peaceful like ourselves. And sometimes people ask why we do this. We do this and we believe in several pillars as Uganda. One, we believe in humanity, and we think that every person in the world must live in a peaceful environment. Two, we believe in Pan-Africanism, that every African must never be homeless, and every African must also live in a peaceful environment and able to enjoy all their rights. Three, history informs our decision of helping others to have their countries peaceful, like we've done in Somalia and in other areas. We were once in a very unfortunate and vulnerable situation as Ugandans, and we were once refugees, and therefore it helps us to look at others like others supported us too when we were in a very difficult situation. So Uganda has a history And this history informs whatever we do. Even when we go for the elections, this history must always inform us that we've gone through a very volatile history as Ugandans, and therefore we never let anything go easy when it affects our peace and security. Thank you.
Very good, Mama. On that same issue of peace and security, I really want to thank and congratulate you. However, Uganda's done quite a lot in pacifying the region. We've been there, we've been looked at as a role model, and so many people admire Uganda. And it's actually common knowledge that people who want to seek a refuge in other countries, if they don't think about going to the United States, if they don't think about going to the other countries, the country in Africa where they want to come to is Uganda. But by just looking at what has been happening lately and these elections, where so many people have looked at these elections as very violent in a way. Let's talk about what we expect tomorrow and what the world, what Africa sees from us, what the region sees from us. Because I know eyes are looking on us to see how we go through this particular period. Do you think we will represent ourselves the way we've done that at the regional level?
Yes, maybe I should just take you back that on your behalf, I chair the Committee on Refugees, Returnees and IDPs at the African Union. And we have a very good reputation of taking care of those who are in difficult situations, like the refugees. And for them to decide to come to Uganda, first of all, it means that we welcome them. Secondly, we are stable and peaceful, like you've said. I think we should never accept to be diverted. As Ugandans, we know that the elections is to help us choose our leaders. And we know our history, we know where we came from, and I think everyone is ready to choose their leaders, especially at the level of presidency and at the parliamentary level tomorrow. And for us, we believe that it will be peaceful. It really will be peaceful. I want to call upon Ugandans, like I've always said, that there's no alternative bid for your country. Your country remains your country, and we've been speaking to our people. But the violence we are seeing is from particular candidates, especially at the level of presidency, but it has never been there. And we want to pray that it shouldn't be there. And I want to say that our people, especially at the countryside, are very shocked that this kind of behavior is in Uganda. They had never thought that we can reach the level that they are seeing now. And I would like to tell you that this has made more people very eager to go and vote so that they pacify this country, Uganda, further. At times, maybe some young people used to take the peace that we have for granted, but I think they have seen that we can slip back to the pit where we came from. And my thinking is that none of them will accept that. I want to encourage Ugandans that let's go and vote peacefully. Let's not accept anything which will divert us from electing our leaders and from remaining peaceful as a country. Thank you.
Just talking about that, you are in Northern Uganda, for which I'm very appreciative. However, we know very well that the people in Northern Uganda for quite a long time lived in very turbulent times and in very unpeaceful days. It's until recently that the people in Northern Uganda have started to enjoy the peace and stability in this country, and they now feel part of Uganda, and they feel a part of our society and our communities. What is the situation like in Northern Uganda, especially when we hear a few talks here and there, especially those that have been on social media, about violence and quite a number of things? What is the perception of the people in Northern Uganda, those who've actually embraced peace and stability? What do they think about this next election, which is happening just hours away?
The people of Northern Uganda I think, have been reminded. For the last few years when we left the camps, maybe somehow we could have forgotten, and maybe we've been taking this peace for granted now. But I would like to tell you that this has awakened them up, and many of them are willing to go and vote. And already they know where they must vote, because they know where they came from. They know the level of suffering they had because of insecurity, and I don't think a person in Northern Uganda is willing to go back. That's why different political parties, be it UPC, FDC, and NRM, in that line, we've agreed at a very high percent that we are going to vote for peace. And we know that the person who can give us peace is the one who stood with us when we were in this conflict for almost 20 years plus. Thank you.
Talking about Pan-African, of course, African integration, one thing that comes to my mind is in your introductory remarks, you actually said 2019-2020, we had about 25 elections on the continent. Yes, and so Uganda is just one of those, and next year, still the continent will also have some elections. Now we have about 18 elections this year. You talked about Pan-Africanism, and now I want us to address this issue of Africa's integration. Do we think we can actually achieve this when different countries on the continent have different calendars for when to elect their leaders, when to do their democracy, when to do all the things? What's the plan like of having this integration when Uganda is on its own, Kenya is doing their own, and all the others? Let's just get to that and see, can we, when we talk about integration and this Pan-African spirit, when can we get to that common ground?
Maybe I would like to get back to where you started from. There's a calendar, and we have the Department of Political Affairs. They're already in the country. They're coming to observe these elections. And I would like that African Union is involved in all the elections in the continent. We also agree that we have different frameworks when it comes to our elections, and we must also respect that. The integration we have has not yet reached the level of political integration, but I'm proud to let you know that we are now at the level of African Continental Free Trade Area, and we commenced trading this January, and Uganda is part. The President of Uganda, President Museveni, was selected by his own peers to be the champion of African integration, and so far he has done a good job. The President of Niger is a champion specifically for African Continental Free Trade Area. So Africa is moving forward, and when we begin trading as a unit, with a population of over 1.2 billion, and we get into the market with all that we have, I think other continents may also want to know what we are doing, and their interest also counts, and sometimes it will be important for us to know that they may want to be involved. Some of them positively, others negatively, but Africa is awake. Thank you.
Very much. Now, away from the issues of the continent and away from your docket as our ambassador in Ethiopia, and of course a non-resident ambassador in Djibouti and a permanent representative at the African Union, let me bring you back now here to Uganda. You are a former minister for Northern Uganda. I remember that very well, and also a member of parliament representing one of the districts in, I think it was Alebtong, to be specific. You were a politician and you participated in politics in this country, and you've been here before. Just take me through what happens on a day like today and you have an election tomorrow, whether for the presidency, and in this country, of course, we know that the day we elect the president is the same day that we elect members of parliament and the women members of parliament. What happens to a candidate? What happens to what needs to be done away from the readiness of the electoral commission to conduct the election, but coming to an individual level or a party level? What happens on such a day, and what do you do? What do you think, and how do you prepare just hours before the election? Now, speak to me as somebody who's been there before and as somebody who has participated in an elective process.
A day like today symbolizes the conclusion of all your political activities, especially like campaigns. So what you do is just to make sure that you have your agents right, and they all have your appointment letters, and you have the right people to protect your votes. And those are the people that you now depend on. You also make sure that some of the candidates you are contesting against do not overrun you by probably doing certain illegal things, by buying off your voters, or by also compromising your agents. And therefore, this day is very important. It's for the candidate to sit down and reflect, not to begin running around. But I would like to add that in the last elections, we've never had this situation. Our elections have always been very competitive, but also very decent. But for the first time, I think, the decency has gone low. We've seen people who do things that we don't believe would come from candidates who are looking for offices at very high level. For me, I think this is a big lesson to Uganda, that if we don't come together as a country and we guard what we have, probably it can still be stolen from us. What we have is peace, which came through a lot of sacrifices. But we are seeing certain things that people are behaving like they have other countries. This is although you can be a dual citizen that we now have legally, but Uganda remains your country.
Okay, I just hope you can still hear me, Mama Rebecca, and I pray that
you will never participate in destroying one country.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll continue with the discussion here. I know that you are in Northern Uganda, of course, and you've been there also looking for your candidate's vote, President Museveni. I want you to help us and assess his strength in Northern Uganda. What do you expect? Because we've always seen, and we're actually looking at the records of how these performances have been subsequently from the elections that we had in 1996 under this particular government. Subsequently, we've seen the voting patterns changing. We've seen quite a number of things determining an election. Talk about the strength of your particular candidate. In Northern Uganda, where you are ahead of tomorrow's election?
We present a very strong candidate, but we don't want to say that we don't have a strong candidate. A candidate who is a pillar of peace and security, not only in Uganda, but in the region. A candidate who is tested and has been proven. A candidate who is respected and is decent. A candidate who has become a consultant to not only our continent, but beyond. A candidate who is envied by others, and they may wish him to get away so that they can grab what is in Africa, not just in Uganda. And therefore, for us, we have a candidate who loves not only Uganda, but loves Africa, and is one of the wedges that, if removed, probably the door of Africa would either be opened wide or closed into darkness. I'm not saying only him, but is a very strong person in that area. A candidate who is one of the 10 presidents mandated by his own peers to look into the reform of the UN Security Council, that we also deserve permanent seats like others. A candidate who is a member of heads of state and government of Intergovernmental Development Authority, that is IGAD, Authority for Development, IGAD, and we've done our part. We've made sure that where there's dispute amongst our colleagues, our member states, it is not just about the gun. Where we can, we've brought them together and they have discussed. Amongst them is South Sudan. Where we need to pacify and participate, we've not shied away. Uganda has taken part under his leadership, and also under IGAD is a part. The Orientation Committee of Heads of State and Government, now African Development Agency, that is going to be a strong vehicle of integration and also development in Africa as we get into African Continental Free Trade Area. A candidate who is a champion of integration at the continental level. And that's the candidate that we present. It's not selfish. A candidate who is not sectarian, who never talks of religion when he's leading you, who never remembers his tribe when he's leading you, who treats all Ugandans as Ugandans and as humanity. That's the candidate that we are presenting to Ugandans for the benefit of the region and the continent. Thank you.
Honorable Amoge Otengo, you've actually said very factual and very exciting stuff here. And it just made me think. President Museveni could be very revered and has an unmatched record on the region or in the region and internationally for who he is. But so many Ugandans don't seem to actually understand this all stuff. And we talk about President Museveni, who the region loves, who his peers revere, a man who's looked at with this Pan-African heart and the African spirit, who's done these very good things for the African region and, of course, internationally. Do you think the people in Uganda, do you think the people in Northern Uganda actually know that that is the kind of candidate or that is the kind of person that you are talking about? When you cascade it back here, away from everywhere and all the good things that is done globally and internationally?
You know, they only give one reason, those who do not like him, and they say he has overstayed. But I want to remind ourselves that right from independence, we've not gone through a very smooth journey. But for the last 30 years plus is when we have tried to get together and put our acts rightly. But I also like to say that when this government came to power, they fought over 28 wars. Sometimes it's hard to do something when you're also fighting. So the most productive years are not as many as they would like to say. So there is no another reason that they give, but they say he has overstayed. Others say that because he has grown now. But I've seen also new presidents being elected older than him in some places which are more developed than us. And like we've always said that it's not biology. We are talking of ideology. We've never said that President Museveni will not leave Uganda as a leader, but we've always said that we need the right time and we need to prepare well. And for me, I think in Northern Uganda, it has been proven that is the right leader. For a long time, we were opposition members. If I see people saying that they're opposing this government, I just don't believe them. I don't see any issues. This is a country where when you disagree, you still remain. I've always envied this country when I go to other places. You know, we have all our leaders who have disagreed, and for me, I don't think this is a tough disagreement. Jagenda, maybe at one point we should talk about the post-elections. We have our leaders who have made high-level contributions to make sure that this country reaches where it is. They have their leader who is still living and leading us. And I think for the first time they have seen that what they fought for, if they don't get back together and move as one, can be easily grabbed by the people that they may not define. Thank you.
Otengo, and I thank you for that, and of course your submission. However, we have an election tomorrow, and what is happening tomorrow is, or what the world needs to know is, Uganda is quite different in our own democracies here, and the way we manage it or do it. Now, we have about 4 elections happening at the same time. We have the presidential elections, we have the parliamentary elections, we have the women members of parliament election, and we also have the special interest group elections. Now, these are 4 elections which are happening in Uganda. It doesn't happen elsewhere. Now, you'll notice that on the continent of Africa, where we've had all these elections for the past year, and actually for this particular year, for example, I think in Libya, currently, they're also undergoing an election, which is, of course, a local government election. Uganda is organizing all these elections at the same time. All our focus is majorly on the 3 elections of the president, MPs, and the women members of parliament, forgetting and negating the other interest groups which are also actually working on and happening. Taking you to what is actually happening in Northern Uganda, tomorrow we'll be electing the president and members of parliament. Now, you've talked about the strength of your candidate for presidency. But how do you see him in the next government if he's given the mandate and elected by Ugandans to again be president 2021, 2026? How is his party going to perform in Northern Uganda, for example? Do you see him come to power with the majority of his own, or we might have a different situation where you have him as the president, but of course also having him losing as a party at the local government structures and parliament?
No, you bring in so many things. The first area, you are talking of so many elections, but maybe let me thank the Electoral Commission. I think they've done a good job. Although there were several and multiple, I saw like those elections have been organized well. The one of the persons with disability, the young people, the youth, I've seen it moving well in the areas that I've been. First of all, NRM already have, I think, almost 15 MPs who have gone to parliament, who have been elected unopposed. And I still believe that more will come. We've had challenges through the primary elections that people were not satisfied with the way it was handled. And some members have also got back on their all got back to the elections and they're on the ballot papers. But most of those independent members are also NRM members. But my thinking is that we are likely to get the majority, maybe even more than we had before. And even at the local government levels, NRM is most likely to get the majority, and it will make the work of the president easy. Both the NRM, who took the flags, And those who unfortunately did not take the flag, but they insisted on getting back to contest and confirm whether they were defeated, still are NRM, but we don't want to encourage them that you can continue moving without the flag, because it may compromise our elections at some point. But I want to reassure you that we already have the majority.
Today of the last elections of 2015-16 with what is actually happening today, and you can ably analyze what you think will be the result of this election from Northern Uganda, where you currently are.
We are standing at, I believe we are standing at a very good percentage, especially at the presidency level, and that is for President Museveni.
Also very good, and we are counting down and waiting to hear and waiting to see. I will just request that I've not had you speak Luo. I want you to take some 5 minutes, speak to the people in Northern Uganda and those watching TV, of course, wherever they are. Speak to them in Luo for them to actually know that that is where you are, and I want you to address the people in Northern Uganda, why you specifically are, tell them what they think they need to do tomorrow.
Sorry.
I want you to address the people in Northern Uganda and the people of Uganda in Luo language. I want you to speak to them in Luo language. And very importantly is remind them.
But allow me to conclude.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Conclude.
I want to conclude by saying, for the first time in this country, I've seen people mobilizing votes in a sectarian manner since the NRM came to power. What we learned most from NRM is rejecting sectarian politics. We've seen people telling our voters to vote for particular candidates because they belong to particular religious affiliation. We've never seen that for a long time. We were just told by our parents that that is what used to happen. There are those who are telling people to vote for particular candidates because they are of their same ethnic group. I live in a place where the ethnic politics has brought a lot of problems, and they're trying to correct it. I don't want it to come to Uganda. I just remember that my father was an education officer in Western Uganda, and we are told of a story that when he went to Kigezi to inspect schools, unfortunately he went to the next, they were beating him, they tried to beat him up. And my father said, I'm going to make sure that before I leave here, this sectarian behavior, even in education, must stop. And the NRM government has been fighting for that. My father took us to Nyamitanga, St. Helens, and we are not from that religious background. And people used to tell our father to remove us and take us to Ruharo, but he did not allow. Said when they grow up as girls, I may even decide either to take them to Mary or I can even take them to Bweranyanji girls. They used to tell us this story, but I didn't know the seriousness until I saw people at very high level mobilizing very high level people to tell them to vote for people because of their tribe or because of their religion. I think after this election, we must think of this. I didn't know it can ever happen. I want to tell you that I'm shocked, but it's taking place. I'm very shocked.
Well, that's very regrettable.
For that, I can now speak to our people.
Yes.
After your comments.
That's very regrettable. Why I want you to speak to the people in law is to just remind them and tell them that they should be peaceful. I want that message of peace to them. I am only being mindful of the people who possibly do not understand English, and they are in Northern Uganda where you are, speak to them in Luo and tell them to keep peace, to go and vote for peace, and to make sure that peace wins.
Himat Rebecca Teo, Ambassador wi Ethiopia, Keda Chung wi African Union. Ana bin borwi chawani, mepuo yu, pikope wi bia mebe uniye. Amito puo yu pia Northern Uganda, kope luen yoni violence, po beda duong. Tihi wan wot polo kuyi. Wanu ngeo kwena wana ya uniye, ungeo ngatamo kwanyo wae kara wanu tika na tek, wanu beru uni camps, wanu ngeo ni kara meluen President Museveni ena muchumpirwa. Tuwa mita lokedu, yini tikeda tela me yini mitu yero, amo beru MP, folewo President na Uganda. Ya di kuchon, te wudbo lukwiri, pe mi nga toru rushwi. Wanu ngeo kwena wanu ya uni ye, da ngeo kwena mer wanu woruni ye. Wanu dong ni chen, yen wanu beru kele loanyi karal. Dong pemye yiwa, wane dok, ute dok chakunu. Timu gina kele wapeho. Chungu kene wan po ngeo kweno ya ye, etu wanu ngeo chunga President Museveni. Beru borwa gulu, beru borwa soroti, beru borwa kwang, ulwanyo pirwa. Doana kwa yuni ba kuirien uberu kuira meron kwanyo wata kutedwa kwa kana bo uweho ko papo hapo hamedini pien kelo peho keda po hapo hamerok apo yu tutwa Animat Rebecca Hoteo Ambassador pame polumi
Abenda Poyo Matek Apoyo Tutwa. Thank you so much, the Honorable Rebecca Mogeotengo from Northern Uganda where you are. I really thank you so much for having allowed to join us on UBC TV this morning and to also just continue sounding a message of peace. The election is tomorrow. The polls open at 7 in the morning. So all of us, let's do our civic duty, go and vote. Don't vote in excitement, don't vote with rage. Just go and cast that vote. When you vote for the person you want, don't tamper with the people that you do not want. And remember that when you refuse to go and vote, then you have by default voted for the person whom you do not want. So just go and vote because your vote counts. Now it is starting tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. UBC TV just promises you that we will have our election hub here. We'll be in 6 different studios speaking to you in 3 different languages and ensuring that we'll be with you, keeping with you starting today until Saturday when we go through this whole exercise. Just imploring you to be part of the national public broadcaster, UBC TV, where everything will come live to you at the comfort of where you'll be. Go vote, get back, watch TV, we'll tell you what happens. My name is Jageda Semakola Ziksoka. We'll take a break. And when we return, we'll have the women from the station room. Good morning and thank you, Mama Rebecca Mugeotengo. Bye for now.
This is Auntie Jovita. your friend, your mentor, and a mother. We've been discussing teenage pregnancy. It is bad. Avoid it. And now we are going to address the girl pregnant now, maybe as a result of rape. It wasn't her choice, but things have happened the way they've happened. We now have to accept it. You have